Void Termina is shown to have a face like Kirby's. Why does this happen and what's the meaning of it? Some Kirby fans will definitely have you believe that this is to establish a relationship between Kirby and Void, having it as part of their evidence to affirm Kirby to be a reincarnation of Void. But unfortunately, they don't connect the dots provided that contradict their idea. Let's start from zero. Void Termina in his fourth phase, called Final Core, is shown to make this phase. This phase is established to be his soul and true form. The outer body he has is presumably a creation of his soul, because he can't sustain it when taking enough damage. It has the same visual effects as other things he creates, and it isn't his true form. This reincarnation of Void Termina, was just born in the story. Even if his outer body was taking actions, his true form was covered inside without seeing anyone yet. His final core form has the ability to shapeshift. Not to the degree that he can completely change himself and create whatever form he wishes, but rather maintaining most of what makes up his soul the same while molding and slightly altering minor parts of it to change his shape in a more limited way, similar to a moldable material in real life. In the interview from the Nintendo Dream magazine of July 2018, we are told that Hyness knew about Void's nature from the Book of Legend. It was established there that Void is influenced by those who give birth to it, and so Hyness wanted to be the first one to meet the newly born Void to influence him with his own nature. But that didn't happen, and as things turned out, it was Kirby the one Void's true form saw for the first time, meaning that Void got influenced by Kirby's nature. The page 141 of the Kirby Star Allies, the original artbook, states something similar, that Void resembles those who enter his body. What this means is that if things had gone in Hyness's way, Void would see him first and resemble his face. If Void were to see anyone else other than Kirby, he would resemble their face rather than Kirby's. Still, his final core makes many other faces, which are a tribute to the dark hearts Hyness used to revive him. Or, in less cryptic terms, Hyness collected a lot of evil, which are those hearts that mostly make up Void Termina, and the latter makes spooky evil faces specifically because of it. The game itself establishes this mechanic Void has. Sort of. Let's break that down for a minute. Remember Hyness' infamously long rant before his battle? It was obviously mistranslated, as many things in the Kirby series are. One sentence of interest he gives mentions the vessel of his god, being said to be influenced by the one who awakens him and bestows upon him compassion. The vessel is explicitly the Jamba Heart. God refers to Void Termina. In the English localization they mostly call him their Dark Lord, but in reality Hyness and his cult believed Void Termina to be God, because Hyness is stupid like that and he indoctrinated his people into believing his bullshit. The text alone is vague as to whether or not Hyness refers to a living Void or his vessel, but further information about the topic help us know that this refers to a reincarnated Void. Since Hyness revived Void Termina, you may think that he is the one who awakened him, but in context this refers to something else. His outer body was acting aimlessly before his true form came to light, the moments before that happened being referred to as something now awakening, and 4 Star Allies were the ones to remove the shell around his true form. So those Star Allies awakened Void Termina. Lastly, compassion here may seem like something only the Star Allies can give, but this is something Hyness believes to be able to achieve. Hyness, arguably the most evil Kirby character. He either went insane at some point in his life or was already crazy and simply fell further into madness. Before either case, this man still led a cult that worships dark substance, which is essentially made up of evil, and he saw as God an entity whose personality can be described as generic doomsday villain. Nonetheless, Hyness cares about his evil clan/family. He overreacted to their punishment and acquired new recruits by adopting younglings into their care. See that baby bottle of milk he carries? He's probably not thirsty himself. The compassion Hyness would show is twisted. It refers to something as basic as being present after the new Void is born, to do care about Void, but obsessively so, and aim to encourage his evil even further. Thanks to the Dark Jamba Heart pieces, Hyness mostly succeeded in making Void evil, but when it came down to the final step of that process, Void Termina was receiving something else. Well, in fairness, the dialogue Hyness gives in-game doesn't really communicate much. It's very vague and the mechanics are mostly clarified in that interview from Nintendo Dream. There was not much of a similarity between Kirby and Void anyway. Kirby is a corporeal being with biological parts like eyes and internal organs. Void's final core form is a non-corporeal soul that he would much rather put a biological or at least corporeal body all around. That Val's not gonna grow arms and feet to interact with the world all exposed. The fact that his soul can open and use 3 holes to look like Kirby's face is something aesthetic and with no substance. He has holes for eyes and it's so natural for Void that he even blinks one eye at a time, let alone with his mouth have a tongue inside or anything. The implication isn't that the villain is so similar to Kirby that they are connected, but that the body of the villain is making a cheap imitation. Now, to be fair, the illustration of Kirby while choosing the Soul Melter EX difficulty of the ultimate choice does depict him in a similar manner to Void's own imitation of his face. But again, this is something without any real substance. They are making Kirby copy Void's empty imitation of his face because it's fun. This mode was added to the game months after its release and they needed to add a new illustration of Kirby for a new level of difficulty. The gimmick around being that the illustrations are more wacky the more the difficulty increases, the previous pick being a demonic Kirby that's a reference to the anime, with a face Kirby can't imitate in canon. I think it makes perfect sense to blow up or obscure his eyes because of the spiciness and have him be overwhelmed. The skulls around already implied that the spiciness should burn him, but that Kirby was resisting it up until now. Kirby is clearly in a damaged state. It isn't natural for him to lack eyes, and this is 100% non-canon. Even if the events during the mode happen in some parallel world, the illustration is made to hype things out in a figurative, poetic way. As in, the idea of the challenge being spicy is depicted with Kirby eating something spicy. They can show anything. Void is even the most spicy boss here. But what about Void's ability to revive in other forms? Wouldn't this mean that he can be exactly like Kirby? Wouldn't this mean that he can be exactly like everyone in the series? Well, let's break that down. First, the part of the text saying that Void can turn into all sorts of beings can also be translated as various existences. Void can simply change his purpose and morals, and different variants of that are various types of existences he could have, without meaning that he will be born looking like any Kirby character that you know of. This shatters the narrative that he could become a Kirby. In an interview talking about the same topic as that pause menu, Void is said to be an existence with infinite possibilities in terms of the type of being he can become in his next life, but this only refers to morality and there is nothing about imitating other characters perfectly. Even if he can turn into all sorts of beings, which is a valid translation, assumptions would need to be made for this to mean that he can become just like Kirby. Their souls are not the same. It would be safe to say that a good Void would have a circular, colorful soul similar to Void Termina, Void Soul and Void, rather than an average soul like Kirby's. It would be an assumption to say that he can change his soul to be like Kirby's when the shape-shifting of his soul is shown to be pretty basic. Likewise, the Jamba Heart is only shown to create the aforementioned souls. It would be safe to say that a good Void wouldn't have a physical body on his own, but that he creates one that disappears when taking enough damage, because this is the case with Void Termina, and Void Termina, True Destroyer of Wars. And this good Void can make it be in whatever shape he wants, being able to be all sorts of beings in that way. It would be an assumption to say that he can have a natural physical body like Kirby. Void Termina was personally imagined as a giant full of power because of all the power given to him for his new life to start. Is following a purpose of good less likely to make Void a giant? The power he would have would be the same, enough to completely fill a Jamba Heart, the vessel he uses to revive that he can create from nothing when dead. It just wouldn't be a dark heart this time. It would be safe to say that a good Void would have all of his power right away when born, because the evil Void Terminus had it that way. Yet being just like Kirby would mean that he needs to train and go beyond his limits for a long amount of time to one day reach like 1/4 of that power. Either way, assuming Void can do all of the above are the least outrageous issues with the theory of Kirby being a reincarnation of Void. That theory is complete nonsense, but it will take me a long time to explain all aspects of it. For now, this is why Void Termina has Kirby's face, because he has the ability to shapeshift and his nature as a being makes him copy the face of the first one his soul meets. It's not because of a relationship between Kirby and Void specifically, As such, claiming a relationship on that merit is explicitly objectively wrong. This also explains why Void has other Kirby-like attributes. After all, he's been influenced mainly by Kirby and secondarily by the other star allies inside his body.